It's late. You're watching my YouTube channel. You're fantasizing about real estate and you're thinking, I wonder if there's down payment assistance programs, when right on the TV you hear this jingle. Down payment assistance can be so awesome. Well, guess what? Today we're talking about down payment assistance. Does it really exist? Can you use it in the world of real estate? Find out. Down payment assistance. You know, we live in a world right now where there are so many banks that are competing for you. And you know, they're gonna want some basic things. They're gonna want you to have some good credit. They're gonna want you to have a 2-year steady work history. But if you do, they're gonna start bringing all sorts of options to the table. And I wanna talk to you a little bit about down payment assistance. First of all, putting a down payment to buy something is really cool that a bank's willing to put up the rest of the money and take a risk on you and I, so that we can create wealth in real estate, create a heritage, create a legacy for the next generation. That's what I'm doing in real estate, and that's what you can do too. And so it's awesome that banks are out there to help us out. So first of all, it's important to understand that your state and our government on a federal level, they have down payment assistance programs. And that comes from that very public sector, but from the private sector in the banking world, we also have banks. And then I want to show you one of my real cute tricks here on 401ks that most people don't know about. First of all, governments more or less mandate a number of different programs for first-time home buyers. They're not really interested in helping investors, but they're super interested in helping people that are buying a home for the first time. And remember, it doesn't mean that your own home you buy can't be an investment. Your own home can. I think it should be an investment. You know, if this is one of the biggest mistakes that young people make these days. It's time to buy a house, and they're so sick and tired of having worked at McDonald's. They now have their valuable piece of paper. It's hanging on my wall that says I've got a degree, I'm smart. So now it means that I can get hired, and oh my gosh, I got paid $40,000 this year, you know, which is the national average, or 50, or I'm making $70,000 a year. And what's the first thing we do? We get picky and say, no more 400 square foot hole in the dumpy ground apartments. I'm going to buy myself a house. And what do we often buy? We buy the nicest house that we can afford. And it feels great. Until you realize that you just put a ball and chain on your hip with a 30-year mortgage, maybe a 40-year mortgage, something you're going to refinance 20 years later. You may never get the sucker paid off, and you're in bondage to it. So when you buy a house, using these programs, use them to your benefit. Buy a house with equity. You don't know what that means? Watch one of my videos on equity so that you can know. It's one of the most important parts of being a real estate investor. You can get yourself a nice house, but if you balance it with having equity, guess what that means for you? It means that you've got more options for your future. If I bought a house, for example, this house has a value of $150,000 and I purchased it for $120,000. Well, guess what? Maybe it was a little shabbier than something totally new that I could have gotten. Maybe I put a little sweat equity into it, did a little paint job or whatever. But guess what that $30,000 means? Freedom. You lose your job 6 months later. You're struggling to afford the mortgage. Oh no, you got to move out. Guess what you can do? This equity now means you've got cash flow when you rent it out or sell it. And what if you made $20,000 after your costs? $20,000, guess what that does when you lose your job? All of a sudden you've got even more money. So be smart when you buy your homes. State, government, banks, 401ks. First of all, governments and banks, they're really good at making sure that there are 3 to 5% down payment programs. Governments have programs where it can even be 0% if you qualify. Banks will always be at 3 to 5%. And then the state that you live in, if you just Google down payment assistance programs for Vermont, Utah, Texas, what you're going to find is that your state, they often offer incentives to help out. Why? Because first of all, they're often getting federal funding. Or number two, there might be areas or counties that they want to grow or expand. You know, I live here in Utah, and at the point of the mountain, which is this new metropolis that's booming, the state of Utah has given out all of these business incentives so that now people like Adobe and Google are coming and moving here, large corporations, because the states make more revenue and they can expand and build more, right? So they have more revenue for their projects. So you should check out what your state is providing, and your banks that you talk to, your loan officers, your lenders, they're going to be aware of the government programs that they can often help you out with. And then here's my little tip and trick of the day. A lot of you are putting money in a 401k. We're not going to talk about how much that is upsetting to me, that you're locking up your money and largely untouchable, and that I think that it is a very financially unwise decision, even with the match. I want my money today so it can work for me when? Not in 30 years from now, because my money is more valuable today. Let go of the match. But let's just say you have one of these 401ks. It's hard to get your money out. You got to prove hardship often, or you got to leave your job. But 401ks have an exemption that say you can use up to $10,000 when purchasing a property. A lot of people don't know that. So if you got $20,000 in your 401k, talk to your HR director and ask them, hey, I'm buying a house, and in this case, what is a 3% down payment on 120? What's $3,600? Let's say that you have to pay some closing costs out. Let's say that out of pocket, it's gonna be $5,000. Guess what? Your 401k that you've been putting money in just helped you actually buy that house and fund your down payment. That's a cool little caveat. It gives them a little bit of redeeming value, not much, but it gives them a little bit. So friends, that's our video today on down payment assistance. Check with your local state, check with your banks, and if you got a 401k, boom, you got a great solution there. If you've had success in the world of getting down payment assistance and other programs or local community programs, share it in your comments below. I think it's going to be super inspiring for all of us to have a chance to see your experience out there in the game of real estate. Otherwise, subscribe. We look forward to your next video.